Hello and welcome to the Man of Legacy podcast. This is episode number 9. I'm your host, Coach Dennis. We're here to talk about men, women, families, sex, masculinity, and life in general. Today's guest is my fellow Good Guys to Great Men coach, Jeff Allen from Great Men Move Mountains. Welcome, Jeff, and thanks for coming back.
Hey, Dennis, love being here. I love talking about this and helping guys.
I tell you what, it's always a good time, and we're going to talk about two things today. We're going to talk about stage 3 of the coaching journey, and then at the end, we're going to talk about the retreat we're putting on in March in Phoenix, warm Phoenix. And so the last time we talked about stage 2 of the coaching process, growing your value as a man. Stage 1 was stop screwing up. And today, stage 3 of the coaching process is ask. What are we going to ask for, Jeff?
Yeah, stage 3, ask. We want to ask for the connection that we want in a relationship, right? What do we not have? We've figured out what we want at this point in stage 3. And so how do we ask for what we want in a connected way, in a calm way, in a centered adult way? Obviously, we can't whine or complain or any of those things that we've stopped doing, right? Hopefully you've stopped those things quite a long time ago at this point, a couple months ago at least. So we're going to ask for the connection that we want, and we're going to talk about how to do that. And you're going to ask from yourself to practice being that mountain lion man on a consistent basis and dealing with emotions, those emotional waves that go up and down, either with you or in the family or with her or whatever's going on in life. You're going to deal with those in a mountain lion way. So you're going to ask that of yourself and how to do that.
Good deal. And of course, to be in stage 3, you've stopped fucking up. Okay. You've figured out how to stop causing problems and making things worse, and you've started growing your value. And, part of that, you've established your boundaries, your values, your nuts, your non-negotiable, unalterable terms. That key thing is how you're behaving when nobody's watching. You're being and living the kind, to the code that you want to be. And I love you. I've heard you say being compassionately solid. And I just think that's a wonderful way of looking at it, because during the feminine storm, sometimes the best thing you can be is just compassionate.
Yeah, compassionately solid. Absolutely. So I want to clarify. So the stop fucking up was stage 1. So if you haven't listened to that podcast, go back. This is the third one in our series here of 4 that we're going to do. The stage 2 is grow your value as a man and grow a healthy space between the two of you during this stage or whatever stage you happen to be in a relationship. So you've nailed those things like Dennis, you just said, and now you're into stage 3. Compassionately solid, right? So when you're in stage 3 of ask, you better be compassionately solid. Otherwise, either you're going to basically collapse or explode when something happens that is triggering for you, or she says something that you feel is accusational, or you take it as a personal attack. If you're not basically ready for this, if you haven't grown through those first 2 stages, then this isn't going to go well. Or if you ask for what you want, but you're not able to handle her emotional storms that may come up after that, and you end up having a fight, it could totally blow up the bridge and collapse things at that point unnecessarily. That fight didn't have to happen. So you got to be ready before you move into the stage to ask, what do you want in your own relationship? Ask yourself. And you're going to be able to ask her what she wants at this point, because you've been consistent and solid in the mountain lion. And you're also going to ask of yourself, how do I want to show up and how do I make that happen? So that's where we are. All right. So Dennis, if I show up like that, I'm going to speak from experience. So I'm about 5 years out of, I'll be vulnerable here, right? So picking up my phone at 3 a.m. and seeing a text on my phone that says, I can't wait to touch your body, love. And thought, what the hell is this? Who's this from? And then realizing, oh shit, this is her phone, not my phone. I found that at the beginning of 2015 and found Good Guys to Great Men. That year we did 6 months of therapy, which was not super helpful. I could tell that story another time. But then, so we separated at the end of 2015. I did my men's work, kicking ass, went to a retreat, went to Steve's retreat, which, you and I now lead, of course. and did my own work. And my ex wanted to date again. Was dating a couple other women, just the first couple dates, and my ex wanted to date again. She's interested in this new mountain lion man who I'm being. And so what are the common responses? We made some notes here. And I heard these as well at that phase. So we're dating again, but what? What are her common responses usually at this phase?
Well, and they look for any mistake, and it's, you haven't changed. You're still the same. You're doing the exact same thing you did
That's
before.
what she's saying, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So she might have skepticism for sure.
Yeah. And the thing is, when there's a history like that, it is just what has happened in the past, and what I've seen with a lot of guys, and I might even be guilty of this myself. We have said we're going to change in the past on issues, and we've changed for the wrong reasons. We've changed to stop the nagging, the griping, to make her happy, whatever. We didn't change because we wanted to change or we saw there was a need. So we eventually backslide to the bad habits. And this is what they see and remember. And the moment you screw up, it is not uncommon. See, you haven't really changed. But if you've done the work for yourself, you have. And the difference we see often is the guys know how to own it now.
Yeah.
And it just takes some time for them to get comfortable the change is permanent and real. And I think it often breeds a really fun curiosity because they see this new man, and I've had one client, his wife said, "You're a totally different man." And the best part was when she said that towards the end of the coaching, he goes, "You forgot something." And she's like, "What?" "You like it." He would have never said that early on. And it's true though. They like what they see, that mountain lion, that calm, cool, Steve talks about the attitude of the happy divorced man, that playfulness, having fun, doing fun things. They see that, they're curious, that's what they want. It's kind of like when you were dating way back when. We've
Exactly.
kind of track of that.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the goal that's how you want to be when you're in this phase. Because why would she want anything within a relationship with you, especially obviously considering the past probably 2 years haven't gone well, and that's why we are in the spot we are. Why would she want more of that unless she's seen fun, consistent, masculine, attractive energy and you being that way as a man for a while now, at least a couple of months here at this phase?
Well,
Absolutely.
And, the difference in the men from when we start working with them to this phase here that I think we see as a consistent is men are no longer reacting to everything. Everything isn't personal. It isn't triggering, whatever their reaction is of arguing, defending, instead they relax into, that just kind of, as she's going on with that curious little look of, this is kind of interesting, knowing that it really isn't about them. And they maintain that frame of the mountain lion. And it allows her sometimes to relax back into it and not continue being upset. You set the tone for the mood, and I look at it as the attitude in the relationship or the household, the general energy level. Are we having that calm and cool, or are you getting all emotional and getting all wound up when she gets upset?
Yeah, absolutely. As Robert Glover would say, you take the lead and you set the tone and you let her set the pace.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of in this phase, this is when you're dancing up and down the stairs of intimacy. That's what I call it with my clients. And so if I'm on step 1 right now, I may be really upset or sad about that we're on step 1 of usually physical intimacy is what we're talking about. Of course, there's lots of kinds of intimacy, emotional, spiritual, mental, etc. But physical intimacy, I use the little metaphor, I guess, of, well, you're on step 1. That doesn't mean that you just sit down on the step and pout and don't do anything or try anything or be whiny about it. That means that's just where you are. So what can I try to dance up to step 2? Maybe I reach my hand out and ask her to put her hand in mine, and I bring her toward me and give her a hug. Or maybe I smile and say that I really appreciated how she was so calm with the kids this morning. I noticed that this morning and I wanted to tell you. Or you wait till a little bit later and you told her that you noticed that, you saw her, you understood what she was going through, and you recognized her. This is the place where you want to be doing those things. Yeah, definitely not sitting down on the bottom step and just whining about it.
No. And you think about, how were you when you first started dating? At this point, the guys have figured out, if they haven't been doing it, is it's up to them to lead the dating process and take sex out of the equation. It's about spending time with the woman you love and having some fun, taking her out, making her feel valued and special, because she is.
So let me ask the hard question. What if you're doing work and she doesn't really seem interested in it? She's skeptical. She's continuing to be skeptical. You see moments of her, being normal, kind of roommate-ish, but otherwise you're at this phase, you're feeling really good, like you've put in the time and the effort and you're motivated to continue to do this, but she's not really responding that well to it. So what do we think about that? How do we ask for what we want when it doesn't seem like she's really on board?
Well, I've had this conversation recently with a client, and it comes down to, what I asked him is, how long were you aware there were issues in your relationship? And you and I both know sometimes it goes back well past the 2 years, because they may have hinted or they may have just said nothing for a variety of reasons. So there's been a disconnect for a long time. And when it comes to this, as long as they see those flashes, I ask them, how long are you willing to invest? Because if you've got a 15-year relationship, but there's been issues the last 3 years, you're 3 months into this work. My question I specifically asked this guy was, is she worth 12 or 18 months? And what's interesting is you can hear it. They answer from the heart. Oh, hell yeah, is what he said. And it's because he said, there's so much history and I love her. And I said, but are you willing to give her time to come around? Because you've been 3 years, you've said, and a lot of guys, we get a little impatient. We start making these changes and it's like, all right, I've changed. Why haven't you? Come on, get on the train.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't realize we haven't been this consistent mountain lion for very long, not even the 3 months, right? So you're only in this episode is about being in stage 3 of coaching of ask. So you have not been consistent for very long at that point. I mean, a month, a couple of months generally, which is amazing and good, and a complete 180 and a whole mindset shift, and amazing work that our guys go through, of course. But yeah, 2 months she's not going to feel safe after 2 months if 2 months ago she was ready to walk out the door or told you, like I heard, this isn't working. And then eventually I see the text on her phone. And like you said, maybe this isn't always just spoken aloud. You don't know how long this has necessarily been even going on.
And for most of these guys, when they started dating her, it's not like they got engaged 3 months in.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about it that way. That's a good point. Yeah.
You have grown and both evolved, and there's been some damage to the relationship due to lack of knowledge. It isn't, I rarely find there's intentional as the norm. Right. It is really ignorance, because nobody's taught us these things that we need to know. And so now we have the knowledge, the awareness, we come down off the mountain, we're trying to be the best version of us. And if you met a new woman, you're not you would take your time.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. And, I had one client, this is a while ago, but he said he put off physical intimacy with a woman. He goes, once you start having sex, you stop learning about each other. And I thought that was incredibly wise, because then, it changes the relationship. And he goes, I kind of want to get to know her more, which I gave him huge props for, because nowadays guys sometimes get a little too singular focused. And they're not the type of guys we work with, but it's easy to get swept up in that when things are going really well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love the brilliance of what he said was recognizing where he would fall off the wagon or where he wouldn't continue to be the man that he wanted to be. He wanted to be that present man that was aware and learning about her and having fun. And he realized he had less of a tendency to do that after the fact. So he's trying to put that awareness into his life. I mean,
Yeah.
some guys are, some guys are awesome at planning date nights and trips and things like that. And some guys, if they move from the computer over to the couch or get out to the bowling alley, like that's great for some people. And it's none of us to judge one's better or one or the other, but some people have an easier time keeping the fire alive because they like to do things with her, or they like to plan little adventures and surprise her, right? Those things do take some effort, and some people like that more than others,
Well, and I'm kind of one of those guys. It's a lot of fun because I've found it is too many guys get lazy about it in a relationship. Some of them will say, well, I've either never done it or, I used to do that, but we haven't, I haven't really taken her on a date in years.
Yeah,
And
here's a little bonus tip that I give to guys sometimes, which is open up your calendar right now and move to next month, no matter what month you're in, move to next month and make an intention and block off at least one, more like two chunks of time that you're going to plan something to do with your woman. You don't have to know what that is. You don't have to know if there's a conflict right now. You can change it tomorrow. But if you put that intention out there, then it's much more likely to happen. It's something I talk with guys about. That's a
I
little bit.
like that because you got to be intentional. And I plan my spontaneity, and I get made fun of sometimes by people when I say that, but I'm like, you know what?
Plan your spontaneity. Nice.
Yeah, I have plan A, and I usually have, and then we'll just go with the flow because I know there's a couple other things going on if we're going to the art festival on the first Friday, and I will know, well, there's a band over here or that, and just depends on what we feel like doing.
Well,
Um,
what if I'm a total green, I'm green behind the ears and it's like, that sounds really hard, Dennis. I don't know, man. That sounds like a lot of effort. What does
so
it? Yeah.
I would analyze what is she like. Okay. So whether it's live music or whatever, what restaurants to plan an evening out. And for the guys with smaller kids, if you're planning a date night out for your wife, that means arranging a babysitter. Take all the responsibility off because you want her to be able to relax into her feminine self and truly enjoy herself as a beautiful woman and keep her out of mom mode. uh,
Yeah,
Esther
that's really important.
Perel on one of her recordings, and I don't remember what it was, what part it was at. This couple were having these amazing dates, amazing. She was feeling as beautiful and feminine as ever, and then was completely out of the mood when they got home. And they figured out she was paying the babysitter. They get home, she'd pay the babysitter, and in her mind, it switched her into mom mode.
Ah, that's interesting.
And so, in working with them, when they came home from dates now, she goes straight up to the bedroom,
Yep.
doesn't break the mood, and the husband takes care of the babysitter, gets her out the door. She doesn't go back into mom mode, and then boom, you know, and it changed it because all of the responsibilities. So I tell the guys, get the babysitters, and you need two babysitters. You need a backup one.
Sure. Yeah.
And pay your babysitters well because they're allowing you to get out. And then, you know, do a Google search what's going on because in the spring through fall, there are free concerts. There are so many things that are so easy, free
Right.
art galleries. If you like miniature golf, do that.
Yeah, I was going to say I fully 100% agree. And if you have to do a 10-minute date and you pull her into the laundry room or something and you tell her you noticed her beautiful eyes earlier, I mean, that's like a 30-second date.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to intend these things and follow through. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a clown. You're not a dancing monkey. You're not trying to be, a movie star. It's You're trying to do some fun, spontaneous stuff because it's fun and you want to keep the relationship alive.
And how do you think she's going to feel when you pull her aside into the laundry room just to tell her how beautiful she looks and how her eyes, how beautiful they are, with no pressure, and she can tell there's no anticipation of sex. It's just a genuine, loving compliment. You give her a kiss, and then boom, the kids are at the door, and that's it. That's as valuable as anything in a relationship.
Yeah, yeah. That's another example of, say, dancing up and down the bottom of the stairs. Maybe that's step 3 to 4, and it's something that you try, right?
Yeah.
The idea is you play. And the dancing part is, if she isn't into it right now, that's fine. And you dance back down a couple steps or one step. This is
Well,
a never ebb and flowing thing.
and because you're at stage 3, you don't get all pouty and act like a little bitch boy. She's unhappy, and and she just shot me down. You just chuckle and you go, "Hey, I'm going to go make dinner. You want a glass of wine? Well, I'm going to pour one while I'm making dinner. You want one?"
Yeah,
or a cup of coffee, Steven cup of coffee. But
yeah,
don't get pouty. Just roll with it, because that's the kind of guy you are, and
yeah.
that allows her not to feel bad if she's not in the mood. That's the thing. We don't think about it, but if she's not in the mood and she's got 10 things on her mind and maybe isn't feeling well, and we react poorly, we've just made sure she realizes, oh, now he's upset with me.
Yeah, to your point, she's looking for confirmation bias of you falling back into old habits. So let's not give it to her. Let's not give it to her. And to your point, if you make a mistake, you just own it. You don't blame or defend. That's a good segue into the sort of the last chunk of stuff I wanted to talk about, which is, well, what if she's really not into it? What if she um, isn't really reaching her hand out to you? She's not connecting very well, and you still want to ask for what you want, and you still want to ask her what she wants in a relationship at this point. So she has seen consistency from you. So her interpretation of you at this point is more solid, more stable, more calm, not as easily upset, that you're starting to know who you are. You have friends you've been going out with, you're going to the gym consistently now, you're doing all these good things for yourself. So she's, has respect for those things of you taking care of yourself at this point. But how do you ask for what she wants? And how do you tell her what you want? So here's a little scenario that I've used, honestly, 3 times in the past 2 weeks. I have 3 clients that are in this phase right now. And so he might say that, I would love to go upstairs and give you a massage. Let's say you're kind of in step, whatever, 5, 6, 7, you're dancing up in that area, and that's what you feel is appropriate. And she says, no, I'm not really interested in that. No, thank you. And turns you down. And you process it, and later that night or the next day or the next weekend, you say, hey, I'm curious, I noticed that you didn't want a massage that night. Do you want to do things like that in relationship? Is this something that's comfortable for you, or are you just having a tough moment that time? So you're thinking about her, you're being compassionate, but you did ask. And so here's my point. If she says, I'm just really not interested in touch at all anymore, and I don't believe that you're a new man, and basically she's just really not, playing ball here. So how do you move forward from there? It's, well, I completely honor that that's not something that you want. That is something that I want. That is something that's important to me in relationship. And you can just leave that pregnant statement in the air, that is something that's important to you in a relationship. If that's not something that she wants, that's okay, but she just needs to let you know, and she needs to let you know how to move forward from here if she wants this to be different. And at this phase, you can say those things. You can ask that question or make that statement and leave the pregnant pause, and then see where it goes from there. See how she responds from there. That's the way to ask. It's not, so some ways that don't go very well, trying to write some big letter to expose how much you love her and asking her how much she loves you, like that. You don't want to lead her. And also, not a good way is to just push physicality until she is repelled from you, and then now it's kind of more of an issue. It's about sex at that point. It's not
All
just
you
about
want
the
is
connection.
sex. That's all you
Yeah,
want is sex.
exactly. So take it from there. What else would you say, or how would you enter that situation? What would be your goal if you're the mountain lion man in that spot, Dennis?
You put the statement out there what you want in a relationship, and I think you've got to figure out, give it some time to see if she's going to come around at all. Because again, you've been consistent, but we've seen it a number of times where guys have said, okay, well, or once they move on, all of a sudden that woman becomes real interested again and real attractive.
Exactly.
And so we're not playing a game of chicken. I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form, but I think the patience that you need to have, you've got a woman that you care about and love that you feel is worth it. You've before this point haven't set your expectations on what you need out of the relationship. We never, when we were married and in our 20s, never said, oh, we never had these kind of conversations. Oh my.
Yeah, neither did I. Yeah.
And so I think you have to give anybody some time to process that and come to their decisions on, is this going to change? We've had some guys that are wise, well, I'm just not interested in sex and it's because I'm 50, and we all know that's a lie.
Right. Yeah.
And it isn't something that automatically that means it won't change. So I think you've got to give it some time, because I think when the guys show that mountain lion calmness and they focus on the other stair steps of intimacy and not on just the physicality, I think that can open up and regrow the love.
Yeah, it certainly can. And to what you said as well, you can't let it go on like this forever. So what's that time frame? Some guys push me and ask me for a specific time frame. Well, the coaching journey might take 3 to 6 months. I say that it's really about 12 months of being the mountain lion man, that you need to just you need to rock that. You need to rock being a kick-ass man for 12 months, which usually starts about this phase of ask. This is the point where you've been consistent. So from this point, I would say it's worth giving your relationship and probably your family, if you have kids, 12 months of being kick-ass. And then you can take the question back down off the shelf. That's how I like to put it. Put the question on the shelf. You've answered it. I'm going to be a mountain lion for 12 months, and that's my focus for myself and for my family, and hopefully for this relationship. And I'm not going to worry about that question. I'm going to leave it on the shelf for 12 months. And this date, the next year, I'm going to pull it back down. And then I'll ask myself this question again. Then I'll reevaluate if I want to make a different choice in my relationship. But that way, you don't have to think about it every day. You make the choice for however long time. Maybe it's 1 month. I've decided for the next 1 month, I'm going to be a mountain lion man, and then take the question down off the shelf. But give your psyche a break. You don't need to try to decide this every minute. It's going to drive you crazy.
And unless you're 87, you've got decades of living an amazing life ahead of you. We sometimes got to get this resolved. I had somebody, well, I'm almost 50. I laughed. I'm like, so you got 35 more years?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Relax. Yeah. I talked to somebody today who was 33, and he came to that. He said, I realized finally in the last 48 hours, I'm going to be okay. And he goes, and I'm young. And I'm like, you're about 10 years ahead of most of the guys we deal with. They're usually in their mid 40s. A lot of them are mid 40s into the 50s. And I said, so yeah, you've got a head start on an amazing life.
Yeah.
If you don't turn the ship around. I said, so just breathe. You're going to be fine.
Well, that's why the community is so important too. Being around other men that are going through this work, getting some perspective. I know that some people's situations are really tragic and hard, and that's called life. And there's also really amazing things that happen within the community that guys share as well. And guess what? That's called life. So it's so important to be around other men.
And we can't really predict there's no way to say it'll turn out like this if you do that. We don't know. All we know is you will have an amazing life. We just don't know who the cast of characters is going to be other than your children.
Yeah. Yeah, you're the main role. I promise guys that they'll have amazing confidence and know exactly what they want from their life and how to move forward. You may not get that, but you'll know what you want, and you'll set your sights on the right ideal, the correct horizon, knowing you're never going to reach the horizon. And it's always one more step away, but that's
Mhm.
where you set your sails, and that's what you go for.
Yeah,
So,
I
Dennis,
agree.
speaking of an amazing life, let's talk about the last thing real quick of our upcoming retreats here in about 3 weeks at the beginning of March.
Yep.
Talk about
What's
having fun. You and I just wanted to have fun, and this idea came out of that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and what's the weather been like this week in Colorado?
Oh man, it's been snowing hard for the last week. I think it was 19 this morning when I went to the gym.
So we got an inch or two of snow yesterday, and it was 5 degrees in Kansas City when I got up this morning.
You win.
I put on every layer I had. I do know we talked about it's going to be about 77 to 80
Yeah,
degrees while we're in Phoenix.
yeah.
We've got an amazing man cave. We've got a couple of great guys signed up. It's going to be a good time. It will be life changing. Uh, we are going to have fun, and you're going to build connections that will last. You will be stunned. I know the retreat I went to at Steve's was worth 5 times what he charged. We've tried to make it so it's a cost effective fun time. And if I had somebody ask me, but I've never shot a gun, you'll learn. That's the beauty of it. If you've shot before, great. You don't need to own a gun. You can rent. It's only $40 to rent it for the weekend, to rent a Glock.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, the whole point is the poise and the calmness and the centeredness and awareness is the same awareness you'll need if you're firing a pistol downrange or if you're standing in an emotional storm with a woman. You better, you need to be under control, be aware of your surroundings. And so we're using that as a fun time and a metaphor for our retreat, the Attractive Man Retreat. Right? And our kind of tagline question is, are you attractive to her? Do you know how to nurture and grow and attract that intimacy in your relationship? We're going to teach men there how to do that. This is just a set of skills. And on top of that, we're going to have a shitload of fun. It's going to be warm, have an amazing house, great food. So yeah, we would love to have you there.
We'll be wearing shorts. I'm kind of excited about that thought right now.
Yeah, awesome. Dennis, I loved being here today. This is one of my favorite stages of the coaching journey because guys feel really good about themselves and they're wondering, how do I actualize that into kind of the next chapter of my life? And this is that process that we talked about today.
Yeah, like I said, we designed this retreat around having a great weekend. We're going to have some fun, and we'd like you to come join us and help continue on the journey you've begun, because it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah, I think this is my 7th retreat, the 6th one that I've co-led. So I'm pumped. It's gonna be great. I'm excited to do this with you, Dennis.
It's going to be a blast.
Yeah.
All right. If you guys have any questions, reach out to us because we'll be happy to talk to you about it.
Awesome. Thanks, Dennis.
Jeff, thanks for being here today. You have a great week, and I'll see you in a few weeks.
My pleasure. You too.
All right. Bye.